Greetings from the Nutmeg TV studios. I'm Eric DeMeo. Welcome to Behind the Show, a program created by Nutmeg TV to honor the folks in our community that are producing shows for your benefit and enjoyment. In other words, the content on this channel, for the most part, comes from regular people like you who decided that they'd like to give television a try. I wanted to see what makes them tick, how they got the idea to produce their program, and how they made it happen. So get ready for the show about a show, starting right now. My guest tonight is Larry Mongillo. Larry is the host of Racing Action Today and a new show called The Telescope View here on Nutmeg TV. Thank you for being on Behind the Show.
Pleasure being here, Eric.
Oh, great. Okay, well, let's get into it because we have a lot to cover.
Sure.
So let's start from the beginning. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up?
I actually was born in New Britain, and we moved to Berlin. I was about 10 years old, and I've been there ever since.
Okay. Now, when did your, you're the host of Racing Action Today. When did your love for racing and cars start? When did that develop?
Actually, at a very young age. I always had an interest in cars and in building model cars, and I would take the washing machine apart. And
really?
Oh, yeah.
So you're a gearhead too?
Oh, yeah, I'm a gearhead. Yes, I am.
Okay. What kind of cars did you have growing up? Anything?
Well, you know, growing up, I had Mustangs, and I always liked convertibles. I had two Chevy convertibles, too. My very first car was a 1952 Chevy convertible.
Nice, nice. I'm sure that was beautiful. Now, you're a big racing fan.
Yes.
Now, a lot of people talk about auto racing, or they think of auto racing as just kind of being something from the South. But you're well versed in what it's like in the Northeast. Can you tell our viewers what the culture's like?
I mean, we've been going to racing events since I was a young kid, and there's events here at Lime Rock Park. You know, there's different types of racing. There's oval track racing. There's sports car, road track racing. And a lot of people, when you say South, you're mainly talking about NASCAR stock cars. And in reality, in the past few years, there's a lot of New England drivers going down south and being very successful. Case being is Logano. Joe Logano just won the championship.
He's from Middletown.
He was from Middletown, Connecticut. I knew him or saw him when he was a little kid racing a quarter midget in Meriden, Connecticut.
Wow.
Yeah, at Silver City.
Jeez.
Yes.
So everyone loves your show. They love seeing you around. But you were into race. You know, you were a race car driver yourself. How did you get into that?
Well, in reality, you know, before I had got married, I always had an interest in drag racing. And of course, you know, once you have a family and get going, you kind of worry about that more than anything. And I kind of put it aside for a long time. And at one point, I said, you know what, it's time to go racing. And luckily, I had a Mustang that we were working on, and my wife was with me all the way, and we started drag racing up and down the East Coast.
Professionally?
No, not professionally. It was more of an amateur thing.
But I mean, it was organized.
Yes.
You weren't just going.
Oh no, it was NHRA. Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So how do you get into that? Like, who do you contact to say, hey, I want to drag race?
Well, we're very fortunate here in being in Connecticut. There's a drag strip in Lebanon Valley, New York, not very far from here, and one in New Hampshire. And the best thing I could tell people is take your street car, go there, see what's going on, and try it with your own street car, you know?
Okay. Well, so that brings us to your show, Racing Action Today. It's been on for over 10 years, maybe to 12 years, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Done hundreds of episodes.
Absolutely.
So tell us about how that came about.
That's an interesting story. We were at a racing event in New York State at Lebanon Valley. I happened to win that day in my class, and we were in the winner's circle, getting a trophy and taking pictures. And I was approached by this guy. His name was Dumas. I remember exactly. And he said to me, "I'm from this station at Pittsfield, Mass. We're a TV station. I'm here to tape a show. Can I interview you?" I said, "Absolutely." So he interviewed us, and we had my wife was there, my friends were there too. You know, we had kind of a, you know, we thought it was interesting being interviewed for TV.
Sure, yeah.
All of a sudden, we thought we made the big time, you know. So, and he interviewed me, and he was walking away, and he said, I said to him, "Geez, is there any way I could get a copy of this?" And he said, "Yeah." Of course, back then it was the VHS.
Right.
He said, "Oh yeah, absolutely. Give me your address. I'll send you the VHS." "Oh, thank you." So then he says, "By the way, do you have a local public access station in your area?" I said, "Yes, we do." He said, "Bring them the tape and they will air it for you."
Awesome.
I said, "Really?"
Cool.
I thought that was kind of interesting. And sure enough, a couple of weeks go by and I get this thing in the mail, and it is the VHS tape. I said, "Wow."
So had you heard of the one, you know, you said you had a local one in your area. Did you know it was called Nutmeg TV?
Yes, I heard of it, but I really didn't know that much about Nutmeg TV. I heard of it.
Yeah.
They were in Plainville, Connecticut at that time. And so I had to look up their phone number. I called, and the woman answered the phone and said, "Oh yeah, come on by, we'll talk to you about it." So I stopped by in Plainville with the VHS, and she said, "Yes, we'll air the show twice for you. And then, you know, you could come back and pick up the VHS."
Yep.
So when the show aired, I really didn't say nothing to nobody. I said, "You know what? I'm kind of curious to see who sees this show, their response."
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, the phone rang off the wall when it aired, you know.
That's awesome. That's so nice.
Yeah. And I said, "Wow, you know, this is really something special."
Yeah.
So then it came time to go pick up the VHS. I went to Plainville, picked it up, and while I was there, I was talking to the woman. I think her name was Noreen, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I asked her, I said, "You know, how do they do this? How do you get to learn how to do this?" She looked at me in the eye and says, "We'll teach you." That was the start of everything, you know.
So you said you won that event.
Yes.
Did you win a lot of events, or?
No, not many.
Okay.
Not many.
Cool.
It was more of I'll tell you, it was more of a enjoyment thing.
Yeah. Okay.
We didn't treat it as a living or, you know.
Right.
We met a lot of great people
Yeah.
over the years, and it was really an amateur kind of thing.
So being a racing fan, I'm sure you watched a lot of TV racing stuff on TV, right?
Yes.
Were you like a TV junkie other than racing, you know?
Oh, sure. I used to like to watch the NASCAR events.
Right.
And then I got interested in the road racing too, which, you know, really, I tell you right now, that's my really love right now is road racing when it comes to racing.
So have you ever thought of yourself being the host of a show? You know, have you ever?
Well, in reality, after I took the courses here, which you have to, you know, you go to orientation, you take the courses, and I was then listed as a volunteer.
Right.
And I helped a few people out doing different things. And then I was asked by Joni Sutter, you know, "What do you want to do?" You know, I said, "Geez, I want to do a show about motorsports."
Yeah.
And she said, "Wow, that's really exciting. I'd love to see it."
Yeah.
And it's fine. So time goes by. In the meantime, I have a sister that worked for New Britain Herald, came to Nutmeg TV and interviewed Joni Sutter and told her, well, I'm Larry's sister.
Okay.
So Joni says to her, well, you tell Larry to get off his butt. I'm waiting for him to do some shows. And she came back to me and told me that. I said, okay, good. So the very next spring, I made arrangements, get credentials to go up to Lime Rock Park, and we filmed their very first show.
Wow.
Yeah.
And, you know, way back then, did you ever think you'd be doing it for 10, 15 years?
Never.
Because what do we think? It's between 12 and 13 years?
Yeah, somewhere around that time frame, yeah. I never thought you know, in reality here, with it, we're not far away from our 500th show.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
So have you ever done public speaking before? Did you consider yourself a ham at all? Or?
No, in reality, I was a very quiet person, not known to do any public speaking.
Yeah.
I was really not, it was not my bag.
Because you have a great demeanor on camera. You know, you're really warm, and you just it kind of makes me happy watching your show.
You know, I used to laugh. Of course, my two cameramen, Bill Majak, who's still with me.
Yeah, Bill's a great guy.
Used to say, you got this rapport with these people.
Yeah.
And that's what he used to say all the time. You know?
And people love watching it. I mean, if I ever, because I do the programming here too, so if I ever make a mistake, I know I'll get a couple phone calls about it.
Oh yeah, I get calls all the time. If they see something they don't like, or you know, something didn't air when it was supposed to air.
Right.
But it's been an absolute joy, I'll tell you. And it all started here.
Yeah.
That's where it all started.
Now, when you were taking those classes and everything, now did you consider yourself a technical guy? I mean, I know you work on cars and stuff, but how about electronics?
No, I was just kind of a mechanical person, you know.
So what did you have to learn? I mean, I know, you learned video editing. I mean, did you ever think you'd be doing that?
Let me tell you, in the beginning, Eric, I was not video editing savvy. I have to say, they had a lot of patience here to put up with me and teach me how to do this. I have to tell you.
Yeah. Now, do you find that fun? Because I know now you do the editing all yourself,
Yes,
right?
I do. After a while, it got to be a point where it's almost a challenge to you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. I may not be the best in the world, but it has really brought a lot of joy to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you work on Apple computers. I mean, were you a computer person before all this?
Well, I was somewhat, but not to the point I am now. Of course, I use Final Cut Pro, which is a very good system.
Yeah.
And I enjoy doing it now. It's like, you know, it's like second nature.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the point of this show, Behind the Show, is to kind of let people know that, you know, anyone can really do it. You just kind of have to be a little bit patient and take the classes.
Well, you take the classes and you become a volunteer. I helped with some other shows.
Did you?
Which I'm telling you right now, I used to go home and laugh in the middle of the night. And my wife would say, what are you laughing at? I said, you would not believe what they did tonight. I mean, really, there was that kind of deal.
Yeah,
you know?
That's so nice. Now, tell us about, you mentioned people that have helped out. Tell us what they do for you. Bill Majak.
Bill Majak was the cameraman right from the start. And him and a guy named Dwayne Cody was also a cameraman.
Yeah.
And they started with me. How I met Dwayne is really interesting. I got a call one day from Nutmeg TV. Say, Larry, we're going to do a championship high school football game. We need help.
Okay.
Could you help us? I said, absolutely. So I showed up. It was at Central Connecticut State College. The good thing about it was the local high school, which I went to, was playing in the game, which made it even more, you know, interesting.
That's right. For Berlin High, you played and you were inducted into the Berlin High.
Yes, I got inducted into the Hall of Fame with our team.
Yeah.
Our football team.
So you met, who'd you meet there, Bill or? I mean,
Dwayne Cody,
actually.
But what's interesting about that is that high school football game, it was 10 degrees out. I'll never forget. I mean, it was cold like you wouldn't believe. I go there, and they say, you're going to work with Dwayne Cody, who I never knew, and he's down here. You're going to cover this part of the field. Fine. I meet Dwayne. He's wearing shorts, of all things,
Yeah.
in the middle of the winter. So
I don't think he ever wears pants, right?
no.
Yeah.
So, I got to know Dwayne a little bit, during the game, and he asked me. He said, "Well, what do you want to do?" When I told him that I wanted to do motorsports, he said, "Listen, I want to do this."
Yeah.
He said, "You make sure you call me when you get this going."
Cool.
And that's how that started.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, Nutmeg is a great way to network and meet people. We kind of have to get through some, we kind of have to move along here because we want to talk about your other show.
Sure.
But you do all sorts of episodes on your show. You have
Yes, we do.
major races. You go to the modern car expos, but you also have a lot of classic stuff. What's the highlight of your year? What's your favorite episode to do?
Without a doubt, my favorite event of the year is the vintage car event at Lime Rock Park over Labor Day weekend, without any doubt.
What do you like about that?
The cars they go back as far as Model Ts even. I mean, that far.
Wow.
The vintage cars.
Yep.
Right up to, to the ground pounding muscle cars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's very interesting, I'll tell you.
Wow. Now, real quickly, you've had some important people on your show. What can you tell me about Jack Roush Jr.?
Jack Roush Jr., he comes from a family, his father is Jack Sr., is maybe one of the most famous race car builders in the country, without any doubt.
Right.
And
so his son was on your show?
His son was on our show. Not only that, is they race Mustangs, which are a favorite thing of mine to begin with. And he's absolutely a very famous person.
How about Eric Curran?
Eric Curran, this past weekend, actually, raced in Daytona during the 24 hours of Daytona and led the race.
Wow.
And he's another local guy who I met at Lime Rock Park. He's been on my show many times, and he's very talented, that I'll tell you.
Wow. You had the son of Dan Gurney?
I met Dan Gurney's son at Lime Rock Park, yes.
And
Billy IMSA event.
Okay, and Billy Auberlin?
Billy Auberlin drives for a friend of mine, Will Turner, who owns Turner Motorsports in the Boston area, and he's one of the most talented people road racing I have ever met, without any doubt.
Wow.
Yes.
That sounds awesome to be able to kind of meet some of your heroes.
It's been an interesting journey, I like to say, yes.
Now, a couple other people, kind of more local guys, Ed Flemke and Reggie Ruggiero?
Yes, they were local racers right in the central Connecticut area here who raced even at Plainville Stadium.
Okay.
And they have a very good history about modified stock cars. They ran a company called Raceworks, which we did some TV shows about, actually.
Yeah. And that was all about like taking a car and fixing it up and...
Brand new race cars, brand new, built from the ground up.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Wow, that's cool. So, Racing Action Today, it's on Nutmeg TV, Fridays at 8, also on YouTube. But let's switch gears, because let's talk about what you're really excited about now is your new show.
Yes.
Like I said earlier, it's The Telescope View. And for the folks at home, that's spelled T-E-L-E-S, Scope View. And that's because of your partner.
Yes. Rick Tellis.
Rick Tellis, who's an author, who's a co-host on your show.
Yes, he is.
So how did this, it's about UFOs and aliens and extraterrestrials.
Yes, yes.
Something I'm interested in too.
This is kind of interesting how this all happened. We had a mutual friend named Steve Parker, who has a radio show Saturday mornings on TIC.
Yep.
And one morning, while I'm listening to the show, he had Rick on as a guest to interview him, talk about UFOs. I was so interested what he had to say that I said, listen, I have to meet this man. And of course, Steve set it up. We got to meet. And after a couple of times talking, we decided that, maybe a good idea to do a TV show. because he's just that talented.
Sure.
And his knowledge, I call him a walking dictionary,
Yeah.
I'll tell you. You know.
So that's on Mondays at 8 p.m. on Nutmeg TV, also on YouTube.
Yes.
So what is different about doing the telescope view as compared to racing action today?
Well, the telescope view, of course, gets into a lot of history about the UFO phenomenon that's been going on since 1947. And it also gets involved with some of the new technologies that came about from that incident. It's very, very interesting. And that's what I like about the show the most. Every time I come here to film a show, it's like going on an adventure. You don't know what we're going to get into next.
Yeah, depending on where Rick takes you, right?
Where he takes it, absolutely.
You've been doing that for almost 6 months now, over 25 shows. Do you think you can keep going with it?
Yes, I do.
Yeah?
I do, because I've had viewers say, you know, you reference certain events, like the Roswell incident, but you know, you have never really talked about that completely.
Yeah.
What exactly happened there from the start to the end? So we want to get a little more in depth on some of these events that have happened.
That's a good idea. A lot of people, people can find this out maybe online or reading books, but not everyone has access to it. So if there's a TV show where people can learn about that, that's kind of a great resource.
For years, they had claimed the Roswell event was really not real. At first they said it was a weather balloon, and the reality of all this is they have kept this from the public for years. And that's what makes it even more exciting.
So have you always been into this subject?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Growing up, there was a TV show, I don't know if you remember, called the Project Blue Book.
Okay.
And let me tell you, when you're like a 7-year-old kid and you're watching the show talking about flying saucers, I mean, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's certainly an interesting subject.
Yes.
What's the name of Mr. Tellis's book?
His book?
Yep.
The Final Revelation, The Sun Project.
Okay, great.
And it's very good. I advise everybody to read this book, you know. So
you've had a racing show for a long time, and I'm sure, and everyone loves it, and now you have a UFO show. I'm curious what your family thinks.
Well, my family always liked the racing show because they kind of were enthusiasts too for racing. Actually, one of my sons has 2 Datsun 510s, which are vintage cars now, and we have fun with him. And now we got our young grandsons are starting to get involved with doing go-kart racing, that kind of thing. You know, and so the family's all with it. And the UFOs has just turned the page as far as they have never seen. These things here are really something really strange to them. And they're so interested.
Okay.
They like to watch the show every week, nonstop, without a doubt.
Great. Well, like I said, Telescope Views Mondays at 8 p.m. and also on YouTube, and Racing Action Today, Fridays at 8.
Yes.
I want to thank you so much for all that you do to bring programming to Nutmeg, but also volunteer opportunities and everything. So thanks for being on Behind the Show. Yes,
I'll tell you, Eric, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate Nutmeg TV and what you people do. It is so important, really.
Well, it's our pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For anyone that wants to find out more about Nutmeg TV, taking our classes, or having a show of your own, you're welcome to give us a call. But for all of us here, I want to wish you a good night.